For more on a busy Monday evening, we are joined by Chair of the Senate Commerce Committee, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, thanks so much for joining us, as always. We have a lot to get to. It is day 6 of the shutdown. Both sides are digging in. Any signs of progress at all?
Look, this will end when the Democrats decide they're willing to reopen the government. I mean, we're 6 days into the Schumer shutdown, and it's driven really by two things. Number one, the Democrats are fighting to provide free taxpayer health care to illegal aliens. That is not what the American people want, and yet Democrats have shown they're willing to shut down the government to try to get it. But ultimately, Lindsey, it's not even about that policy demand. This is all about politics and protecting Chuck Schumer. Several months ago, Chuck Schumer and Democrats worked with Republicans to keep the government open, and he almost lost his job. The angry left-wing base of the Democrat Party was furious with him. And so we have a government shutdown right now because Schumer is trying to act tough. He's scared of being primaried from the left by AOC. And so this is Chuck Schumer saying, see, I hate Donald Trump as much as you do. And unfortunately, 43 other Democrats joined him and forced a shutdown. This will end. Tonight, I'm going to go and vote to reopen the government. Republicans are going to vote to reopen the government. And this will end when the Democrats decide they put on a temper tantrum long enough and they're willing to turn the lights back on.
Just for academic debate and discussion here, because you're saying that this is really showmanship by the Democrats. But back in 2013, you staged a lengthy protest to defund Obamacare, holding the Senate floor for 21 hours and 19 minutes. It ultimately helped lead to a 16-day government shutdown. You were blasted back then, even by some of your party's leaders, for many of the same reasons that Democrats are being scorned today. The Democrats, by all accounts, feels passionately about the Affordable Care Act subsidies, as you felt back in 2013 about defunding the Affordable Care Act. So if no one is listening, is a government shutdown an appropriate tactic?
Well, listen, in 2013, it was fundamentally different because what had happened in 2013 is the Republican House of Representatives had passed legislation funding the entirety of the federal government, but declining to fund Obamacare. And it was Harry Reid and Chuck Schumer that forced the shutdown because they insisted they would not pass the continuing resolution the House had passed. And they forced a shutdown. And by the way, I would point out, when I did a 21-hour filibuster against Obamacare, the principal point I raised is that Obamacare was going to raise people's premiums enormously. Just this weekend, the Washington Post wrote an editorial acknowledging that Obamacare, the so-called Affordable Health Care Act, did not produce affordable health care, but instead dramatically increased health insurance premiums. I am all for reforms that lower premiums, that increase competition, that give consumers more choice. That's what I was fighting for in 2013. That's what I'm fighting for today. What the Democrats in the Senate are doing right now is fundamentally different. In this instance, the House of Representatives passed a clean continuing resolution, a bill that says, let's just continue what we were funding yesterday, let's fund tomorrow.
Let's talk about your podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz. You made national headlines for saying this about the FCC chair, making those comments directed at Disney ABC about the Kimmel Show. Let's listen.
We can do this the easy way, or we can do this the hard way.
Yeah.
And I got to say, that's right out of Goodfellas. That's right out of a mafioso coming into a bar going, nice bar you have here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. I think it is unbelievably dangerous for government to put itself in the position of saying, we're going to decide what speech we like and what we don't, and we're going to threaten to take you off air if we don't like what you're saying.
Since then, Kimmel Show has returned to the air. Brendan Carr has agreed to testify before the committee that you chair. I'm curious, have you spoken with President Trump since you made those comments? Have you faced any blowback in your own party?
I haven't faced blowback. In fact, a lot of folks said they agreed with what I said. I believe in free speech, and I believe in free speech whether it is conservatives or whether it is liberals. During the Biden administration, there was an effort at the FCC to go after Fox News and to go after Fox News, threatening to take away their license. And I led the fight against it, and we stopped it. In fact, President Biden nominated a radical nominee named Gigi Sohn to the FCC, and the Senate rejected her nomination in significant part because we believed she would do this same thing, abuse the power of the FCC to go after and try to silence conservative voices she disagreed. And so in this instance, listen, I have a lot of disagreements with Jimmy Kimmel. I think he's no longer funny. I think he's just angry and screams at Donald Trump every night, and that's why his viewership has gone down. But I don't think government ought to be forcing a comedian off the air. I don't think that's true, whether it is a left-wing comedian or right-wing comedian. That's not the government's role. And so I said what I believe, and I think an awful lot of other Americans do too.
Over the weekend, President Trump posted on Truth Social criticizing Al Sharpton and saying without evidence that the president of NBC is afraid to take him off the air. He then said the FCC should look into the license of NBC. Your committee, of course, has oversight over the FCC. What do you make of more threats from the president targeting media companies that he disagrees with?
Yeah, listen, I don't think the FCC is going to be pulling stations' licenses because they disagree with what the hosts are saying. Now, I think it is unfortunate that MSNBC is so far left, and I think their viewership is quite low as a result of that. And so I think market forces are important, and check it in. Going back for a minute to late-night comedians, I love late-night comedy. I grew up watching SNL. I used to love the late-night shows. And to be clear, a good late-night comedian makes fun of both sides. I think Republicans are certainly fair game. I'm fair game. President Trump is fair game. The problem is when Trump became president, the late-night hosts got so angry that their shows shifted to just being left-wing partisan rants. That's not funny, and it's not interesting to watch. And so I'm perfectly fine if people turn off their TVs and they end up pulling off partisan hosts, whether Al Sharpton or Jimmy Kimmel. I just don't think it should be government forcing them to do it.
Senator Ted Cruz, always appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Linsey. Appreciate it.